Okay guys, welcome to this week's Friday Waffle, being recorded as usual on Thursday, and I've got these two reprobates with me to keep me company tonight, so thank you gentlemen for joining me at very, very short notice.
It's alright, mate.
It just seems like, it just feels like yesterday that I spoke to you guys. Weird.
Yeah, it's weird though, isn't it? Eh?
Fucking weird.
I wonder why. Ooh, mystery for the viewers.
No spoilers now, no spoilers. So yeah, it's a Friday Waffle. How's your weeks? How has your week been, chaps?
Well, I've been on holiday from work this week, so I've not done that much. I've recorded a few videos. Discovered the computer in my arcade machine is on its way out. I kind of realised that when I was opening the drawer up where the keyboard is, and I could feel all this heat coming out that weren't the monitor. And I was actually playing pole position for the Mainmeister high score kerfuffle, and the computer just crashed, and it just went and just turned off. And I was like, well, that's not fucking right.
That's not a good thing.
Last night, I ummed and ahed, and I went onto Amazon and I bought another Ryzen 3 motherboard and RAM processor combo.
Fine choice.
And a 1 terabyte SSD to go in there, because it's only a 1 terabyte drive, so that should speed things up a bit.
How much does a 1 terabyte SSD drive go for?
80 quid.
Yeah.
Is it? That's all right.
Peanuts compared to when I bought my one.
I mean, I was toying with getting a 2 ter or 1.9, but that was 163 quid, and I thought, well, I don't need it because I've still got the 1 terabyte spinning drive if I want to have anything extra in there, so...
Yeah, and to be honest, an SSD doesn't make a vast amount of difference when you're talking about like gaming, especially when it's an emulator. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're playing something like Fallout 4 that loads in procedurally, then yeah, an SSD's great. But for a Commodore 64 or a main game or a Mega Drive game that load in seconds anyway, definitely.
Yeah.
What's the kind of maximum capacity of an SSD drive? I think it's not that huge.
I think they're up 4 or 6 now, aren't they?
You can get some, the real like enterprise editions. Actually, they might be in like RAID cabinets sort of things, but there are some out there which are available at 64 terabytes. No, I don't know how much they are, but I don't think I'll be rushing out to buy one just yet.
No, I'm sure someone, it might have been Jeff via his brother, because he's big into storage. He's got loads of storage and backups and that, and he was looking at SSDs, and I think it was something fucking ridiculous, like 50 grand, but it was something like a 200 terabyte SSD or something. But it's like literally, it's the sort of thing movie companies buy to store all their special effects on, you know, when they're doing post production and that.
Like an add-on to your Cray computer or something, yeah.
I wonder how much a Cray computer would actually go for. Do these things pop up on eBay, or is it like...
I think it's one...
eBay,
yeah. I suspect it's one of those things where if you need to ask how much it is, you can't afford it, you know.
How much? I mean, you hear that all the time, you know, people say, oh, your I don't know, your microwave oven has got more processor power than the bloody Apollo space mission or whatever the fuck it is. I mean, where would a Cray computer sit? I mean, as regards to a mobile phone or whatever now, is that something that's comparable? Was a Cray computer not just crunching numbers? Was that all it was doing?
Well, no, it's doing a bit more than that. I mean, you think about it, in, let's say, Formula One, the Sauber team had the most powerful wind tunnel and most powerful supercomputer of any of the Formula One teams. I assume they've still got it, even though they're now Alfa Romeo. And basically every other Formula One team wanted access and to be able to use Sauber's wind tunnel. Well, you know the sort of budgets that Formula One teams have. You know, we're talking hundreds of millions. So, you know, the fact that they're using something like that, it's doing billions of calculations per second and all this. But to try and actually compare it to another, I mean, it's on a totally different scale. I couldn't even begin to, imagine the computing power. Oh, there we go. Right, go on.
Yeah.
Right, well, the price in 1977 was $7.9 million US, which is equivalent to 33.3 million in 2019. It was 196 centimeters or 77 inches high. You don't need all that. It weighed 5.5 tons for the Prix 1A. Its power, I'm assuming that's its power draw, was 115 kilowatts at 208 V400 hertz. It only had a 64-bit 80 megahertz processor though.
And only one. Fucking hell.
And the memory, but get this right, the memory was 8.39 megabytes up to 1,048,576 words, and the storage was 303 megabytes on a Cray computer.
As much as that.
As much as that, yeah. But in 1979,
Yeah, I'll say in 79, yeah.
That's when I bet it could even run an N64 emulator without turning the frame thing down a bit.
Well, you'd have to ask why would it fucking want it?
Yeah.
I notice I get pop-ups on Amazon. Is it that you can now get like a 400? Is it a 400 gig SD card thing? Yeah.
Yeah, they're up to a terabyte as well.
Yeah.
Are they really? Blame me.
Yeah.
As I said, I've mentioned that before. Out of all the technology, that we've got in the world, fitting a terabyte in a bit of metal that's no bigger than my fingernail, I just don't get it. I don't physically understand how it works. How does that work?
I don't think we've got long enough to do the big print version with crayons for you, mate.
Yeah, it's all to do with like the actual manufacturing process and that, and the chip die size and all things like this. Yeah. Just say it's good. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, that'll do.
Ooh, magic.
Yeah.
I mean, do you lads, have any of you guys got like a streaming movie service or music to Apple Music or anything like that at all?
Well, I've got Netflix and Amazon Prime.
Nah, I've got Amazon Prime, so I mean, I paid the extra money, so I've got, I think it's an extra $5 or something. So there's access to 40 million songs. I just think we're absolutely spoiled. I mean, I call it PlayStation syndrome, that whereby you have every single game, you have access to everything, and it's even like films now. I mean, there's numerous streaming services I've also got quite a large collection on my computer, which I use Plex for. So really, music, films, it's just there. Games, I mean, I don't know how many ROMs I must have. It must run to like 50,000 or something. I mean, I've got 25,000 Commodore 64 games for kickoff. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, there's something to be said about having, a limited collection of anything, and you're going to listen to it, you're going to play it. But when you've just got an infinite collection, you end up not using it.
Well, I don't know if that's true for me, because I kind of... it's very rare I'll think to myself, I want to play something, and then I'll go and look for something. I generally tend, I'd like to play such and such, and then I'll just go and put that on and play it. But it's nice knowing that I've got it here. I mean, me and Chris were talking about Doctor Who before we started, and I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but even though some of them are telephoto reconstructions of the ones that are missing, I've got every episode from the first William Hartnell episode up to the latest pile of dog shit episode from the last series. I've got the whole lot, and it's I think it's less than 400 gig. You're talking 60 years worth of television for one series.
It's I don't know, but I just think having too much isn't always a good thing. But could you imagine talking to yourself, your 18-year-old self, and saying that in 40 years' time, you couldn't have physically imagined, well, the internet didn't exist for starters. I think if somebody told you 40 years ago that there's going to be technology whereby you can talk to friends on a computer, you'd probably gather that. But if somebody told me that you were going to be able to, like, you know, have the entire Commodore 64 collection on this little piece of metal called an SD card, you just couldn't. That still just blows my mind with stuff like that. The fact that you can email somebody. I saw one of the guys was asking for the ROM zip for pole position, and somebody like posted it. You know, the fact that you can post an arcade game, fucking mental.
I have to say it is quite an unexpected surprise. You're actually playing something decent in the high score kerfuffle there. You know.
Yeah, well,
I don't know how long that thing's been going on for, but ever since it started, you played 2 games that I think's any good. Berserk and now this.
I was
Just thought I'd throw that in.
The 10 minutes of the waffle I did record before I gave up. I wasn't having a go, but somebody commented on my lack of participation, and what I did say was I set it up because somebody asked me to do it, not because I wanted to do it. I set it up because somebody else wanted to do it. But yeah, some of the games that have been picked, Pengo can go fuck itself. I mean, it's an arcade game that has. I don't know. I've played it a few times, and I thought. I mean, and I'm not the only one to think that. And then Columns, I'm like, nah, not my cup of tea.
Don't know that one
at all. No, it's basically Sega's kind of take on Tetris. But anyway, getting back to, in fact, I haven't even mentioned that what I was wanting to have a wee chat about tonight is arcade games. What are your thoughts on arcade conversions? Do you think arcade games make good home ports? What do you think?
They can do. I don't know if you saw the video I put out the weekend of a brand new version of Bobble that's been made, called Tiny Bobble, that's been made for the Amiga, and it runs on an expanded to 1 meg A500 minimum, and it's nigh on arcade perfect. It runs at 50 frames a second instead of 25, which is what the original release did. It's got 32 colours instead of 16. It looks and plays like the arcade game.
I'm not so much can a computer do an arcade game, but I suppose you need to kind of go back and think what were arcade games designed for? Arcade games weren't really designed for people to enjoy themselves. They were designed to fucking make money. Let's be honest, that's what they were for, and that's why when I talk to like the guys from the Ted Dabney experience, they're saying that they're talking about restoring machines and all that kind of stuff. These machines, when Atari made Pac-Man or whatever it was, or Taito made Pac-Man or Namco made Pac-Man, these were made. And they were known. It was going to be a known short shelf life. Nobody ever imagined that 40 years on, people would still be playing them. So, and that's why when they stopped making money, they would just rip the bloody board out and put a new one in. You know what I mean? So they were designed. Obviously, they're designed to get money. So you've got to have good graphics. They've got to have a hook in them. They've got to be easy to play, I think. But ultimately, they're designed to basically kill you as quick as possible.
Well, to a degree. I mean, the bottom line with them is they had to make money. But the thing is, if they weren't entertaining, if people weren't enjoying playing with them, no one was then going to use it. So they weren't going to make money at all that way. So, yes, they were there to make money, but they had to be entertaining as well. If it was a pile of shit, no one would go near it. Of course... the example I usually give is Gradius 3. Now, that was a total commercial disaster, big time flop, because although it looked good, it was so ridiculously hard, nobody bothered playing the fucking thing. I mean, Konami's thinking was, if we make it as hard as we can, people will put more money in it, determined to try and get through it. But in fact, it had exactly the opposite effect. It was so hard it put people off, and no one went near the fucking thing. So it's a real sort of balancing act, and a lot of the time it went badly wrong. Yeah,
I suppose even I mean computer games as well. And I did ask. I can't remember. Was it Sean Sutherland or whoever it was? I asked one of the guys on the 12-hour live stream. It must be very, very difficult getting that balance, because you know, we all talk about how, you know, the old games were more difficult. Your Manic Miners were difficult. They had to be, because when you think about it, if Manic Miner was easy to play, you'd have completed the game in fucking 10 minutes. You know?
Yeah.
So it's,
They had to sort of. Yeah, they had to sort of artificially increase the longevity of the thing by increasing the difficulty. So yeah, like you say, with the vast majority of 8-bit games, yeah, if they were as easy as modern games, you'd have finished them in like 20 minutes and rarely, if ever, played it again. So yeah, they did need to be difficult, which meant obviously, you know, they were a lot more challenging, and depending on the game, I would often think, yeah, that made it more enjoyable to play because it was more challenging. When games are too easy, I don't really do that.
We're not including Hercules or Leander in that, are we?
Well, yeah, so that's when it goes to, you know, the other extreme. You know, make them so ridiculously hard, you'd rather fucking burn your face off than play that thing.
So, yeah, Gradius 3, I'm trying to think. So that, well, obviously it was the third incarnation. So was Nemesis Gradius? Was that the same game?
Yeah, Nemesis was the first Gradius game. Gradius 2 was Vulcan Venture. Gradius 3 didn't have a subtitle, and I don't think Gradius 4 did either.
So Gradius 3 is Gradius 3 is nigh on impossible, and you're saying Lukozer, yeah?
Well, I mean, I have seen videos of people. Yeah. I was going to say, I have seen videos of people being able to complete it, and you know, even though I've seen them, I still can barely believe, you know, what I'm watching. And then I try playing it, and it's just, you know, it's a fucking car crash right from the word go. So yeah, it does depend on the abilities of whoever it is who's playing.
That's one for the high score. That's the one for the high score. If Lewis is watching this, that's one for next week, mate. It's interesting to see the big guns like Charlie Farr and Mark Blaster and Sick Boy have a crack at it.
Okay, just so long as it, you know, stays on record that it's his suggestion. I may have mentioned Gradius 3. I did not mention including it for that.
So now my mate's brother's got a website called GameStone, and there's a part of that called the Gradius Homeworld. He collects Gradius stuff. I think he's got the arcade boards. Well, he used to have the arcade boards when Jeff and him used to live together. Now, I know they had Gradius 2 because I played it round there and I watched Jeff complete Gradius 2. But you know, if you've got like Jeff, you know, the chance of you ever speaking to Jeff is slim. But if you ever speak to him, he will say to you it is purely a memory game. The same as any arcade shoot 'em up. As when it's a game where everything is the same every time you play it, as long as you know that which baddies shoot bullets a certain way and which ones shoot straight at you so you know to move, as soon as you memorise that, it then becomes a reflex game rather than an avoiding everything game because you know where to be on the screen. And that's what he said to me, because I remember saying to Chris that Jeff said, by the way, Vulcan Venture's one of the easy arcade shoot-em-ups. He was like, about it. And I said to Jeff, well, I said he weren't very happy about that. And he goes, no, he goes, what I meant was, I had the arcade board. He goes, so I had infinite credits and I could learn all the stuff. So then, eventually, once you've learned it all, you know, the same as you learn, if you listen to 2112 enough, you'll learn all the words and where they come in. He done that with spaceships. So... But it was always impressive to watch arcade games. We used to go in this little newsagent's knitting shop called Max in Enfield, where I grew up. The guy in there always had two machines. And I remember he had Rygar in there, and loads of us were crap at it. And then you get Jeff standing there on level 21 or whatever. Why ain't you moving? Oh, I can get more score if I just stand here and blast these away for a bit. And he's just like racking his score up, and then going on to completing the game. The rest of us are like, this bloke's a fucking robot.
So what do you think? What do you think makes a good arcade? Sorry, what do you think makes a good port or a good home version? What do you think the secret is to a good home version?
Playability, without any shadow of a doubt. Doesn't matter what it looks like. To me, it does kind of matter what it sounds like, but it's not that important. But it's got to play. I mean, you look at some of it, Pong. Look how successful Pong was, and it was a square and two rectangles just doing that and bipping and bopping. And look how successful that was. Then when that came to home machines, like on the Binatone and that, it was really successful again because of the playability. And there was bugger all graphics and bugger all sound on that, but it took the world by storm because of how playable it was and because it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm doing my Arcade Perfect, my arse is, you know, we've all seen where they try and replicate the arcade game, and it just simply doesn't work. Then you get, you get a game like, you get the perfect example of using trying not to replicate the arcade game perfectly, but trying to get the gameplay as to call it Buggy Boy in the C64. It's a cracking version. It doesn't really look like it, but it feels like the game, and I've absolutely nailed the playability.
Yeah,
We can go one step further with that and have the Commodore 64 conversion of Powerdrift as an example. Now, I much prefer that to the coin-op original because it's something that I think Chris Butler did quite often, which he didn't go for an out-and-out conversion, right from the get-go. It was more like his interpretation of it, built around the limitations of the 64, because obviously there was no way the 64 was going to be able to have an accurate conversion of Powerdrift, which is a good thing if you ask me. So he created this version which, when you look at it, you can clearly see, okay, yes, that is Powerdrift, but it plays it plays well, plays better than the coin-op original. So with that one, playability was clearly the number one priority there, and as a result, you ended up with a game that was better than the coin-op that it was the conversion of.
I mean, the last two videos the last three videos now that I've put out have been arcade ports to the Amiga that I thought were pretty good in their looks and their sound and the way they played. I've come up with 10 so far, so 11 including the new Bobble. I mean, I might not like all of them, but like the New Zealand story and Rainbow Islands, I like as much as you two do. But you can't deny that they're really well done conversions. I mean, for Rainbow Islands to be as hateful and as crap on the Amiga as it was as the arcade original, they've nailed it.
Yeah. I mean, there is no denying those two games. Yeah, they really, well, apart from the layout of the first level in New Zealand story, which for some reason bears no resemblance at all to the arcade original, but in every other way, with both those games, they have got it spot on. But therein lies the big problem with them,
Aye. A turd will always be a turd.
Even if it is a cute turd.
I've still never really fully understood why I hate Rainbow Islands so much. And I know it's a bit of a standing joke with us and when we do these live streams, whatever, but I've played it a few times and I just fucking hate the game. I don't know what it is.
I know why I don't like it.
I know. Oh God.
I was going to say I am and was a massive fan of Bobble because as a two-player game, which is how I used to play it on the 64, then the ST and Amiga with my mates, it can be a good laugh, especially if you decide, right, we're just going to go for it and robbing the treasure off of each other and grabbing the power-ups so the other one can't get one. You can have a really good laugh playing it. Rainbow Islands, that says in its subtitle the story of Bobble 2. Well, your cute dragons at the end of Bobble get turned back into humans, so you have to swallow that one. But they've taken away the single screen platform levels. They've taken away the two-player cooperative, and the single screen two-player cooperative was everything that made Bobble such a good game. You can strip away the cute graphics and the sound, it's the playability. And they took that away, and the first time I played Rainbow Islands, I mean, I'd never played the arcade version. I think I must have got it on the Amiga, because I think I had the Amiga by then. And I was so pumped up for playing. It's like, yes, Bobble 2, this is going to be blinding. What the fuck is that? Is pretty much how it went. I was I wouldn't say I was distraught, but I was like, oh, what have they done? And then, you know, you look into it and you find out that's what they did with the arcade machine, and that's why I don't like it. I think it's a hateful game, and like I said in my video, the arcade version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow should have Judy Garland spinning in her fucking grave.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's a broken control system. It needs to you need to either be able to fire, but they have this stupid fucking rainbow that goes like that, and then you move to the side, and before you know it, you're kind of jumping top of rainbows, and it's just all over the place.
Well, I also remember a couple of your waffles back, you were talking about is it just the visuals of Rainbow Island, and if they change the visuals, would you like the game more? And I did actually write a comment on it, but for some reason it didn't seem to show when you were going through the comments in the following one. But no, I don't think it is just the visuals, because if you think about it, a game where you're getting from the bottom of the screen up to the top, platform game, while also shooting enemies that are appearing, and picking up power-ups, and having to stay ahead of a rising water level. Well, that's the Killing Game show, and that's a fucking pile of shit as well. So
yeah. I think it tries to be too clever. It just tries to do too much. As you say, you've got all this. You've got the water. You're jumping. You're trying to shoot things, and I don't really know how to kill baddies. Have you got to lock the kind of? Is the end of the rainbow got to hit them or something? I don't know.
You can encase them in the rainbow, and then when you jump on the rainbow, it pops them out. I found that out last week when I was playing it.
And any time I have tried to play it in a live stream, I just fucking hammer the fire button. I just keep going, I'll try and get to the top as quickly as possible. I'm like, what's the point of that? That wasn't fun. There's no fun in it. And then, of course, you've just got all the, fucking fruit falling and things turning into raspberries and strawberries. There's just far too much going on. And I just find it absolutely baffling that people, I think it was at Amiga Power, they had the top 100 Amiga games, and that was voted the #1 Amiga game.
Yeah, it was the biggest selling game for the Amiga, which I think is just ludicrous.
And
but
it
is an almost, apart from a couple of shades of colour, it is almost arcade perfect, and I think that was the basis for a lot of those votes. Is because of regardless of what we might think of the game, they did such a good job of converting it. Like Andrew Braybrook and I think it was Steve Turner done the music and Jason Page done the sound, and there was someone else whose name I can't remember. They done such a good job of replicating the arcade. People were genuinely stunned that was in the home. You'd had years and years of all these crappy looking ports on the 8-bit computers, and I mean you look at Outrun on the ST and the Amiga, and it's laughable.
Yeah.
And then
anything by Teartex.
Yeah, all of a sudden Rainbow Islands comes in, and it is nigh on arcade perfect. So I can see why people lost their shit over it.
Aye.
I just don't like it. I mean, even I know I mention him quite often, Jeff, my mate. He likes cute games. He's got no problem with cute characters. He's pretty much, if the game plays well, he'll play it regardless. But he does prefer the cute things. And I was talking to him, and even he don't like Rainbow Islands. So there's got to be something there.
Nah, there doesn't seem to be any in the middle. You either love it or you fucking detest it.
We're really going to upset poor old Cauldron of Stardust here. He's going to be folding his shirts with tears in his eyes next week.
But I totally get what you're saying. I mean, it's an absolute spot on. I mean, kudos to Andrew Braybrook and the team. They've done an absolute cracking conversion. But when the original game is shit, then it doesn't matter how good the conversion is. The fact that it's a more accurate, the best accurate conversion ever, means it's just equally shit as that.
It means it's just as shite as the original one. So yeah.
When I shared my video on Twitter, because I don't really use Twitter much, but I use it for following select people, so I don't see all the crap that goes on there. And I think I put on there, this might annoy a few people. I really don't like Rainbow Islands, and it's got quite a lot of views off the back of that. So,
What would you say if I were to rhyme off 10 of the worst arcade ports on any computer? What would you say?
Outrun on the Amiga and ST.
Is it really that bad? Because I mean, you know, Outrun was universally panned, and that's the thing that I've noticed. Games that I thought were absolutely shit, I've revisited them, you know, maybe in the live stream, whatever, and I thought that's not that bad. I think I played Outrun a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. I hate the 64 version of Outrun more than I hate the Amiga version.
See, whereas I think the 64 version is probably the best of the home computer ports. The American disc-based one.
Oh, okay. See there, I've only played, you know, the UK release, and of course my big problem with that is no fork in the road. The feature of Outrun that made it different to all the other, you know, driving games, and it's not there in the 64.
It's not in the American version. Either in the American version, you get a map at the beginning, and you can choose one of like your 5 routes, and then you can do it that way. And because it was a disc-based one, when you get game over, if you want to do a different route, you haven't got to wait 10 minutes for the rewind.
Okay, so yeah, you haven't got to reload the game again. Yeah.
And I think because they were under a bit less pressure, they updated the road routine. They put they tidied up the graphics on the Ferrari a bit, and there's more clouds in the background. It's just generally better. If you have a look at I think it's the first driving games video. I actually did Outrun, but I did the American disc version because I'd seen it on. There's an Australian guy called Hellfire 64, and he he did one of driving games, and he showed the American version in that. And I thought when I was doing a driving game video, I thought, oh, actually, I remember seeing Rob on that channel doing one of them, and I went and had a look. And I thought, right, well, I'm going to do the American version as well and see what the difference is, and it makes a big difference. You know, back in the day, I only had a tape deck to use in a disc image.
What was the one that I played? Was that an American one or the British one I played? Do you know?
I think you did both, I believe.
I think I just played one, but I thought it was alright.
Yeah, you might have played the British one because the American one is by Mirasoft, or no, not Mirasoft. Something else beginning with M.
Oh, is it? I'll need to check it out. Aye, obviously, yeah. So, well, Outrun, yeah, on the Amiga, the 16 bits. I mean, it could have been, as we've seen ourselves, you know, with Lotus Turbo Challenge, we could have almost had I wouldn't quite say an arcade perfect, but we could have had a damn good version on the Amiga.
Oh, definitely.
Well, I can think of worse conversions than Outrun. You know, the two obvious ones that stand out. You know, Karnov, hard driving. I mean, you know.
Chase HQ on everything.
There you go. Yeah, Chase HQ. Fuck.
And of course, the
Amstrad one was brilliant of Chase HQ, and because I don't know who did it, but whoever did it, Chris Butler did. Instead of trying to make it absolutely arcade perfect, he used, from what I can gather, the Amstrad's 4-colour mode. So then you had all the scrolling, and it's a really fast, nippy game. The Spectrum one looks alright till it moves, then it's just too slow. No matter how much the Speccy owners rave about it, it's not a patch on the Amstrad version, but both of them are better than the 64 one, because that really just is absolute dog shit. Sorry, Al.
Of course, I think the probably about the worst arcade game conversion would have to be Cisco Heat on the C64.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty poor. And well, I don't know. Some people think it's all right, but I thought Wet Lemon on the 64 was pretty bad. Not because it looked horrible.
I wasn't keen on that.
It was like driving a bobsled down a racetrack. It was like every time you try to take a corner.
Okay, Jailbreak. There you go. There's another real stinker for you. Although again, with that one, the coin-op original was shit as well. So you know, it doesn't matter how good a conversion they did, it was always going to be a shit game.
You've really got to question the quality control of some of these games. You know, Cisco Heat, hard driving in the C64. How anybody thought that was a viable commercial product is beyond me.
I don't know. I mean, hard driving on nearly everything was pretty rough.
Yeah, with hard driving on the 64, I think they were aware of just how shit it was because they didn't actually release it.
Really?
It was only available if you bought, I forget the name of it. It was a compilation that Domark brought out.
Arcade hits or something, was it?
I can't remember the name, but that was
Really?
the only way you could get hard driving for the 64. It was done and ready to be released at the same time that all the others were, and quite rightly, Domark, and bearing in mind, Domark decided to hold it back because it wasn't good enough. Fucking hell.
Well, at least it
Yeah,
didn't. At least it.
I think the only decent version of hard driving I've played on a home system is probably the Mega Drive version, or the Amiga version if you've got a 1200 with an 030 or above in it.
Yeah, I played the Amiga version, but yeah, it was just on a standard 500. No.
The thing is, though, have any of you guys played the arcade hard driving?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point of it was a driving simulator.
Yeah.
You take away the gears, the pedals, the brakes. It wasn't a good game. It was just all about look what we can do here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was more of a technical exercise than it was an actual game, I think. And yeah, you're right. Once you take away, the fact that you're using the clutch pedal and it's manual gears and that, take that away, which of course meant that all of the conversions were doomed to failure right from the get-go.
Was there not a sequel? Was it race driving?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was called. I know there was one. I don't think it did very well. I don't even know if there were any conversions of it.
Yeah, it was set in North London. It was called Well Hard Driving.
just talking about sequels. On the Ted Dabney experience, they were talking to, I can't remember the guy's name, but they were talking to the guy that designed the original Star Wars, and he did The Empire Strikes Back, which he said he wasn't a massive fan of, but then he got dragged into for some other project, so he didn't get to do The Empire Strikes Back, not The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and he himself, he said he had that many good ideas. He says the chase scene in the Endor Forest would have been the perfect kind of game for like a vector graphics. So he was quite gutted when somebody else got handed the project.
Yeah, Return of the Jedi was an awful game. I mean, it's not just a case of it was the worst of the 3 Star Wars based games. I mean, it was just a dreadful game, full stop, There's another one where, again, the conversions, doesn't matter how good a job they would have done, it was going to be a shit game anyway.
Aye. I mean, I remember seeing Return of the Jedi in the arcades, and I think is it the second level you're the Millennium Falcon and you're kind of you're chasing, or you're getting chased with the sort of like the fire, and I remember thinking that looks shit, and that was back in whenever it was. Just on that note, what other arcade? Because normally arcade games they're pretty good. Is there any other arcade games you guys can think of that were actually shit? That weren't good games?
Oh, there's fucking plenty of them, but well, Afterburner. Yeah, there you go, Pingo. Yeah, yeah, Afterburner, all about the looks, and then G-Lock R360, shit game, all about the experience. In fact, there's so many of those Sega Wideboard games. It was all about the experience of playing it in the deluxe cabinet. The actual game was a total afterthought. So yeah. Crazy Balloon. I was never a big fan of that one. If you're going back to the really early stuff, I never saw the appeal of that one.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going early stuff, I remember going on holiday to Pontins in Little Canada in the Isle of Wight in about 1980, I think it was, and they had like the bit where all the parents go in the evening for the entertainment. And either side the door they had a Boot Hill and a Space Invaders, and I had one go of Boot Hill, but I must have chucked, I don't know, £5 or £6 in the space of a week in the Space Invaders machine. When I was about 8 years old, so just about tall enough to play it properly.
Aye, Boot Hill was, again, it was a very early game, but it was limited to say the least, wasn't it?
Very, yeah.
It's interesting. What you notice the very, very early. I mean, my earliest recollection of kind of. I mean, I saw a Pong machine in Edinburgh Airport. You know, whenever it was, and then the shows Fairground used to come to Livingston, and they had arcade games. And the ones I remember, they had Sprint, which was the original.
Yeah, I used to like Sprint. Yeah.
I thought that was awesome. You had this.
Yeah.
You were getting to drive a car.
We think when that came out. I mean, oh, blimey, when did that? Was it like 79, something like that? I think Sprint came out.
Like 78, probably.
So was it 78? So I would have been 6 when that came out. And to me, you know, the steering wheel, and I always remember the gear levers had like the actual like proper like rubber gator around there, and so that just having that, to me, it made it feel like you were actually driving a car, you know. I thought it was fucking superb, just because it had the rubber gator on the gear stick.
Brilliant.
And after you'd spent your 20 pence, you would just stand and watch the demo and kind of wish that you could be playing it.
No, if you had 20p there, you were really lucky. You could have had 2 goes of it then, you know, yeah.
But there was that, and again, that was, I think, was it just based on time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was time thing.
In fact, you know what? I don't think you. I don't. It wasn't like Super Sprint where you qualified. You had like 60 seconds to just hop as much as you could, and then when the 60 seconds was up, so you couldn't really go beyond 60 seconds unless you put another 10 pence in, wasn't it?
Yeah, and also, of course, the circuits changed while you were racing, so you know, you had that to contend with as well.
And then the other one I remember, what was it? They had the Atari basketball, the 2 players.
Yeah, I remember that one. I
And
never
again,
played it, but I do remember it.
It was all based on time, and then you also had, was it Fire Truck? Was that it was an Atari game?
That the one where the back sort of swings out when you go around.
You're driving a Jeep.
Oh yes, yeah.
And it was black and white graphics. And again, these are all time based. I wonder what. So was Space Invaders the first game to come along and give you lives?
I'd be very surprised if it was the first, but
I think it was the year
it was
before
certainly
Asteroids.
one of the first.
Because Asteroids gave you lives, but Asteroids I think was 1979. I think Space Invaders was 78.
That came out. I wonder what actually changed that, and why did they become men? Can I have your last man? That's what he called it.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know why people kept referring to them as men. I never did.
Or did you not mean a Scottish thing? I don't know.
No, that was a countrywide thing, mate. I think I always used to refer to them as lives, but occasionally I'd say men. I don't know why. I don't know if that started really early or once you had games with actual little men in. I don't know.
Yeah.
So what would have been the first arcade game? Well, I suppose Boot Hill. Apart from Boot Hill, that you actually controlled a man. What would that be?
I can't remember how old Boot Hill actually is.
I shall open up MAME and have a look.
What about
I was thinking the first might be that Atari basketball.
Yeah, and then there was Major Havoc, which was an early vector game by Atari. You ran. It was like a platform game with vector graphics.
Don't remember that one.
Boot Hill was 1977. That was released by David Nutt Associates and Midway.
77. I'm pretty sure that's earlier than the Atari basketball. Then
is that actually called Atari basketball?
I think it was. Yeah, it's just called
it was just called basketball. Aye.
I might actually have that in my favourites because it's not the bestest game ever, is it?
Yeah, it's not the greatest, no.
Limited to say the least. But so on the flip side, we've discussed poor arcade conversions. What would you say is some of the best home ones and why?
Whoa, blimey. Well, when there are good ones, obviously.
I don't think I ever saw a bad R-Type.
79 basketball, by the way.
What?
79. Okay, it's earlier than I
1979
thought.
basketball.
Well, you know what I think of R-Type, so that's another one of those where, yeah, the conversions could have been great. Well, actually, they were all good conversions, or at least the ones I saw were, but it's a game I can't stand, so...
Which is interesting because you're a massive fan of Salamander, aren't you?
Yeah.
See, I would almost say, fucking hell, if you like that, you're going to love this. So what is
Salamander wasn't ridiculously hard. That's the big difference. The Salamander had, I mean, it was challenging. It was by no means a fucking walkover, but yeah, it compared to R-Type, it was a fucking breeze. So you had the chance to actually last a little while. Well, I did anyway.
Yeah, no, Salamander weren't too bad. Yeah, I mean, for me, I played it on the 64 ST and Amiga. Bobble was a good arcade conversion. So,
I mean, the Salamander conversion on the 64 was pretty good, apart from the tape loader. That was really intrusive. It was really long. But if you overlook that, then yeah, that was a great conversion.
Then I think Nemesis in the C64 wasn't too shabby either, wasn't it?
Oh, I hated the Nemesis conversion. Yeah, I didn't like that at all. But then, bearing in mind, Nemesis was one of those games where, when I was going down the arcades every weekend, and Nemesis was one of those games that I played every time I went down there. So I got to know the coin-op really well. So when it came to the conversion, basically, if it wasn't arcade perfect, I was always going to look down on it, sort of thing. And yeah, I just don't rate it.
I can completely understand why you had exposure to arcade games, and then if you were playing an arcade game and you went to an inferior downgrade, you're going to think it's shit. Whereas
exactly. I think my point of view, and this will also apply to anybody who lived in like a seaside town around that sort of time, and therefore were playing arcade games a lot more. Our opinion of conversions is generally going to be a lot less favourable than, like, say, someone like yourself who didn't play that many coin-op games back then because you didn't have access to them. So, of course, the conversions was, a lot of the time, the only chance you got to actually play the things. So you would look at them a lot more favourably than I would.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, when MAME came along, that just fucking blew my mind.
So, yeah, when MAME came along, I mean, that just changed everything, didn't it?
Yeah, it certainly did.
Sorry, Chris.
I was going to say another really, what I think is a really, really good conversion. He's a member of your family, Al. Iron Man Ivan Stewart Super Off Road. Although there's less colours and a slightly lower frame rate, I think the Amiga version of that's really good. The Super Nintendo version of that is nigh on arcade perfect. The sound's a bit different, but colours and smoothness, that's had really good conversions. The only thing missing from the home versions is the steering wheel and the pedal, because you had like 3 round the machine like you did with Sprint. That had good conversions.
I've never played any version of that, so yeah, I can't say about that one.
Yeah, I think my favourite, what do you call it, talking about best arcade conversions, the Atari ST version of, was it Super Sprint? It's absolutely superb. Absolutely superb. I don't think that ever got a release on the Amiga, funnily enough.
No, I always thought that there was an Amiga version, but I remember, I think it was one of your live streams and you were playing the ST version of Super Sprint. And I mentioned something about, and I was sure there was an Amiga version. Everyone was saying no, it never actually appeared, which really does surprise me. Even if it had just been, another lazy ST port over to the Amiga, but it didn't even get that.
I think the sequel was the Championship Sprint. I think that got a conversion. Did it possibly? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think Badlands did as well. That
Badlands
was
did,
the
yeah.
third one. Yeah.
Badlands, that's another good conversion on the Amiga as well. I mean, was that an arcade one? It was, wasn't it, originally?
Yeah, I mean that was essentially Super Sprint 3 in all but title. I think it was actually released as an official, sequel to Championship Sprint, but they decided to change the settings completely and everything else. Which,
Well, the first track is exactly the same layout.
yeah, that's it. That's sort of like, the first giveaway that is obviously part of the Super Sprint series.
Yeah. What about fuck? What was I going to say there?
I don't know that one.
Oh bollocks! I've completely forgot what I was going to say. That that's got another game there.
I'm
Gauntlet. What do you think of the?
I'm glad you didn't catch us out saying the earliest game you can remember was the Enigma machine now.
I was going to suggest Space Wars, but yeah.
Cheeky bastard. Anyway, Gauntlet, moving swiftly on. Gauntlet, were you guys quite excited about when Gauntlet was getting converted?
Not hugely, I'll be honest. The coin-op version was okay, providing you were playing it with, at least there was at least two of you. Yeah. Playing it on your own, no, it bored me, and so I was never that fussed about the computer conversions either of the original Gauntlet or Gauntlet 2, let alone the 1,000,001 fucking clones that it spawned, wasn't it?
I didn't mind Gauntlet on the Commodore 64, but I remember Gauntlet 2 coming out during the year and a half or 2 years I had an ST for, and I think there was 4 or 5 of us that all had STs. We used to swap games about, and I think pretty much every one of us bought an original of Gauntlet 2 because of how good the conversion was on the ST.
Mm.
I mean, looking back, the scrolling weren't that smooth, and the sound was a bit, but as far as conversions go, that was pretty good.
Yeah, I bought the original Gauntlet in the Atari ST because it had actual screenshots, and it just looked like the dog's bollocks. And then you try and play it, and it's like, I don't know, 3-4 frames a second.
It's just bollocks.
I don't know why. I don't know why it was like that, because it's not. I wouldn't think it's a particularly processor hungry game, but just awful. And I don't think did Gauntlet 2 come out in the Amiga? I know the original never came out in the Amiga. Don't think it did it?
Oh, I have no idea.
It might have done. I'll have a look.
Yeah, you double check it. But yeah, what you're saying, Lukozer, I mean, mate, well, I was never into Dungeons and Dragons, but my mates at the time were, and so I always remember my mate fucking phoning, oh, there's this fucking unbelievable arcade game called Gauntlet. You play like an elf, you play a Valkyrie, fucking hell. And I remember going to Edinburgh Student Union, getting absolutely shit-faced and fucking lager, and then sitting playing Gauntlet pissed, and it was, it was like, oh, this is fucking brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then when Zap gave a wee preview that it was getting released, I eagerly awaited for it to come out, and then when it did come out, I remember it was I remember getting it just before Hogmanay, New Year's Eve, and all my mates were going to a party, and I decided to stay in and fucking play Gauntlet. Sad man.
Yeah, you said it, yeah.
Well, Gauntlet 2 got a release on the Amiga, and so did the not quite so good Gauntlet 3.
Yeah, Gauntlet 3 was terrible, wasn't it?
I'll need to do a arcade perfect my arse. So Gauntlet 2 came out in the Amiga, did it?
Yeah, I've got it here. I shall load it in the background. I better turn the sound off.
Aye, by all means, share it. It with
this ain't. I'll run it on my laptop. You're having a laugh, aren't you?
But yeah, it's funny. Gauntlet is, well, there's a couple of games, but Gauntlet is probably the only game I can think of, arcade game, that becomes utterly pointless as a home conversion.
Well, yeah, I suppose so, because I mean,
it's unlimited, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. The way Gauntlet worked, it was compelling you to put in more money to, increase your health in there. And if you weren't going to put more money in, you were not going to get further than, say, level 5, 6, whatever. You know, even if you were able to get all the food and everything else, you know, because your health is constantly going down and down and down, so you have to put more money in. So obviously with the home conversions, using that same engine, but you've got no way of putting in additional credits.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say it was a pointless exercise, because you know the game fucking sold well enough, and that was you know what they wanted. But yeah, it wasn't a great idea. I don't think, you know, doing a conversion of it.
Yeah, the whole point of the arcade one, as you say, was you know you had a finite amount of money in your pocket, and you're trying to fucking not die. You're trying to eat as much food as you can. But when you can just go, oh, my health's getting low, fucking F1 or whatever, boom, health, boom,
Oh,
health.
you could do that. So you just press the key and it was like another credit got put in.
I think it was. That's why I sat up all night and hugged my knee back in 1986 playing it, because it was just like constant. And I think,
so essentially you had infinite health. Right? Yeah, I know. Yeah, okay. In that case, I mean, where's the challenge? There is none. You know.
So what do? You state yourself, and that's why when I play any arcade game, no matter what, I point blank refuse to use the continue. I just that's kind of breaking the law. You've got to go back and start it from scratch. But then ultimately, a lot of games were designed. That's why you had continue. But again,
it depends on the game. I mean, if I'm playing like the old classics, you know, if I'm playing like, you know, Golf or Asteroids or something, for a start, they weren't continues then.
Yeah.
But you know, obviously, I wouldn't consider it. If I was playing something like, say, was it Operation Starblade or something, I like to be able to get through that, so I'll use continues on that. But you know, they're the exception rather than the rule.
Right, I've got Gauntlet 2 loaded up on the Amiga emulator, which unfortunately is not on this laptop. You could have 4 players on it on the Amiga.
2 joysticks, 2 keyboard.
It's player 1, joystick 1, player 2, joystick 2, then 3 and 4. We've got a star and they require interface for printer port, so I don't know how you'd go about that, but yeah, it looks very much the same as the Atari ST one from what I can see. Obviously the game hasn't started, I haven't got a joystick handy to start the game off. I was saying that, it says press F1, hang on, we can do that.
Maybe got crisper samples, possibly, you think?
Possibly. I don't know if this is going to run or not. No, because I haven't got a joystick plugged in. But it looks pretty much the same as the ST one. Perhaps slightly smoother movement, but without turning the sound on, I couldn't tell you.
Oh, there you go. Wasn't there a Garrison? That's what it was. Garrison was a kind of a port, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't like Garrison.
Is it Rainbow?
There was nothing original in it at all. If you bought Gauntlet and then you thought, oh, I'll try this new game, Garrison, you take it home and basically you got the same game again. I hate it when games did that. At least have something different in it, but no, there was nothing at all. I mean, like, you take for example Druid. Now, that was to a degree a Gauntlet clone, but that introduced something new, and that made that quite good. I did like Druid. I like Druid 2 as well, but yeah, Garrison. I
quite liked Avenger as a kind of Oriental style Gauntlet clone, a good Gremlin graphics game.
I was never fan of that.
It's all right when you get into it. Once you work out what you've got to do and you know how the traps with the spikes in the floor work and that, it's actually not a bad game. Hidden Depth, they call it.
Has it not got one of these tiny little play areas? And it's got this fucking huge bit that says like the name of it or something? Or am I thinking
Yeah,
I hate that.
It's about half and half, but it's not a bad game, and you know it's got a nice Ben Daglish soundtrack to it, which is always a plus for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like a Sid, you may have gathered.
I'll tell you that probably the finest arcade conversion bar none, which we've completely forgot to mention, is Marble Madness on the Amiga.
Yeah, fine one that.
Blimey.
Yeah, got no arguments with that. That was the first Amiga game I played. I got that with when I got my Amiga. It came bundled with 2 Mastertronic games, and they threw in Marble Madness as well. And I was quite pleased about that because that was one I really wanted, and it was every bit as good as I thought it would be.
Lucky you. When I got my A500, I got Shadow of the Beast 2, Nightbreed, Back to the Future 2. I can't remember what the other one was, and Deluxe Paint, I think.
Oh yes, I got the Deluxe Paint with mine as well. I think everybody got Deluxe Paint, didn't they, with when they bought Amigas? Did they ever actually sell a copy of that program? Was it just always given away with Amigas?
Hands up, how long did it take before you copied over it with a game?
Actually, no, I kept mine.
I used to actually use Deluxe Paint and do drawing and that on there.
Okay, how long after you first ever used Deluxe Paint did it take you to then just say fuck it and draw cock and balls? I'd say it was about 5 minutes for me.
Bloody hell, we're talking nanoseconds.
Yeah.
Just an interesting, you're talking about, I don't know why I thought of this, I'm talking about copying over the disc. My sister, her mother-in-law passed away a couple of years ago, and she's got all these fucking tapes, like the Alexander brothers, and just all these really old Val Doonican and fuck knows what else, Perry Como, and this young lad got in touch with her. He was interested in taking all these tapes, and she was telling him all what's on it, and she said, "I'm not being funny," he says, "but why do you want all these tapes?" He says, "I've actually just started up a band, and we're releasing our first album, and we want to record them onto tapes." So he was basically getting them to record over.
I've got I think it's funny. A funny story about tapes. I don't know if I've told you two before. When my nan, bless her, passed away, my mum's mum passed away in 2003. Obviously, me, my mum, my dad, and my brother were tasked with clearing out her granny flat. We're clearing out all this stuff. Now, my nan, when she was alive, she was always big into George Formby and Max Bygraves and stuff like that. So we're clearing out her music tapes and laughing at her music collections, and I pulled one tape out and it said London Calling, The Clash, and I was like, well, this is fucking amusing. I wonder what Nan's taped onto this. I've still tape, it's been Calling by The Clash on it. My nan had a fucking Clash album in with all her Max Bygraves and George Formby. Brilliant. It's just one. I mean, she was 81 when she died, and it was like obviously it was a really, really bad day having to do that. I mean, I don't know if you both know. I'm sure you both know about that sort of thing. But to find this tape, and then when I got home and put it in the tape deck, and it was actually The Clash, I was, I was like, I couldn't believe it.
I think the coolest, I inherited my granny's record collection. I think she had it was Children of the Revolution by T-Rex.
Not too bad.
Yeah, T-Rex did some alright stuff, yeah.
That was alright.
Mind you, I do actually quite like George Formby, so...
I love George Formby, fantastic.
Yeah. Well, naturally I do. I mean, we played his song Happy Go Lucky Me at her funeral because that's the kind of character she was. Best shot of a snowball, my nan, as well, when she was alive.
I remember being in Morrison's a couple of years ago, queuing up with my messages, and there was this little old woman on her mobility scooter, and in amongst her vegetables and what have you, she had one of the huge Bombay bad boy pot noodles.
Excellent stuff. Well, why not?
Now listen, I think just to finish this off, I think we'll go through some questions if you're up for that.
Yeah.
If I can just find up, it wouldn't be a Friday
Waffle.
One of them. Yeah, well, you can answer that one. Let's just have a quick look.
You cheeky git.
Right, where are we? Well, according to this, we're live. Oh, that's we are live. Well, we're not live. We are live, but nobody can actually see it. Right.
Well, we haven't had any comments, so obviously.
Barely live.
Right. Let's have a go. Right. Colin Jones is saying here, waffle question. I know these. I know these can be a bit too complex for video, but do you ever play any realistic simulation games? Driving simulators, train simulators. You've already answered one of those. Yeah, I was talking about flight simulators. Well, I'll let Mr. L go first. Are you a fan of simulators?
It depends what it is. I have got a train simulator. I haven't played it for a little while, but yeah, I have
Colin
got one of
doesn't
those.
need a train simulator. He's got a bloody train, hasn't he?
He's a train driver, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I got train simulator. I'm not keen on modern flight simulators because they veer too much towards trying to be realistic rather than trying to be enjoyable. I used to like the old flight simulators in the 64 and the Amiga because they got the blend perfectly right, especially the microprose ones. So, you know, they had the complexity, but they also had, you know, the sort of like ease of playing it. But yeah, not so much nowadays. So yeah, as far as simulators go, well, I mean, I have got the some of the Codemasters Formula One games. I don't know if you'd really call them simulators. I suppose to a degree they are. So yeah, you can throw that in as well. But that's about it as far as simulators for me.
My favourite simulator I remember playing a lot, even though it was a bit slow on the 64, was Microprose Gunship.
Yeah, I had Gunship.
Like thick manual, eh?
Yeah, big thick manual, and yeah, Formula One Grand Prix on the Amiga.
Oh, of course, yes.
That was another one. Was that Microprose as well?
Yeah, it was Microprose. Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Crammond, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I think the second one, the Formula One Grand Prix 2, I think that is still the best Formula One game that has ever been released. Unfortunately, Formula One, the third one that he did, it went a bit downhill there. I don't know if either of you have played that one, but it looks like you're racing through a Terry Gilliam animation. It just doesn't look right at all.
All right. The one I liked, Formula One, it was like an arcade stroke simulation, depending on how you could choose arcade or simulation. And that was just simply called Formula One on the PlayStation. It had Murray Walker doing the commentary.
I played that one, yeah.
And it had a Joe Satriani guitar music track to it,
Yeah.
like the song Return to Shalabelle. And that's probably one of my favourite Formula One games, purely because of the Satriani music.
That's the last Formula One game I've ever played, and anytime I load up a Formula One game, I automatically compare it with that, and they nailed it perfectly. I mean, I used to sit, I don't know how many hours I played that game. I used to sit and do like the full fucking Grand Prix, or like, whatever it was, 52 laps, and you'd be sitting there for hours, and it was just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I'd need to revisit it. I don't know how it's going to look now, but yeah, I remember the Joe Satriani track, and I remember buying it, and I went to Virgin Megastore in Edinburgh to buy it. Absolutely fantastic.
One racing game you really got to try. Actually, you may have done Grand Prix Legends. Either you played that?
No.
I mean that one. It's like the cars and the circuits from the 50s and 60s. So I mean, you're sitting in something like a Maserati 250F, and you are racing on a 10-kilometer Monza track. Racing does not get any better than that.
Is that on Steam? Lukozer?
No, it's a really old one. I don't think, it hasn't got a Steam re-release. You might, I don't know if they've got it on GOG or not, but it's definitely worth tracking down. If you do get a copy, you've got to play it through DOSBox and that. But it's definitely one to play.
I remember my mate playing that a lot. I'll tell you, the one flight simulator I did, I liked on the C64 was Solo Flight. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember Solo Flight.
I know the title. I don't think I ever played it.
Quite basic. I could never really get my head around Gunship. All my mates loved it, but I just couldn't fucking understand it. But I loved, what was it, Knights of the Sky on the Amiga?
Yeah, the old
Again, I know the title, but I never played it.
I mean, you're basically flying a biplane, or was it a biplane? It was a biplane. So it was like left, right, up, down, fire button. Even I could understand that. That was pretty good. And I remember when I got the 1200, it ran that bit quicker, and that was like, wow.
What about?
Well, it's also.
What What about Wings by Cinemaware, which had the little flight simulator bit in it? You took, it was like a story. You were playing like an Air Force pilot during World War One, and like the cinematic starts off at the beginning with the Wright brothers taking off at Kitty Hawk, and then you go through this diary of the war and you do strafing, bombing, and the other one is you're up in a biplane and you got to take out balloons and you got to take out Fokkers, and it is like a flight simulator, all done in sort of like filled in polygons and that. Well, I had that on the Amiga, and it was a really good game. It had a really good story as well. Well, I bought it a couple of years ago. They re-released it in HD for Steam with all tightened up graphics and that. But all they did was tighten up the graphics and sound. The actual game plays exactly the same, only smoother. That is really worth a look. Wings is probably really cheap now as well.
It sounds well worth a look. Well, I am a bit disappointed that you didn't take advantage of being able to use these Fokkers with Messerschmitts quip there. You opened the door and then just left it open, you know.
The Fokkers bombed the Fokkers bombed on Chippy. That was the end of his career.
Yes, yeah.
From my granny's flat or something, whatever it was. The other, what do you call it? The first and last version of Microsoft Flight Simulator I enjoyed was when it came out in ST. Just being able to use the mouse, that's when you realise you'd moved from the C64, being able to control it. I think you could fly. Could you fly over, was it the Golden Gate Bridge or something like that, I think?
Yeah, that's right.
Probably massively dated now, but back in 1987, it was like the future, and I think you could maximise the windows and all that kind of stuff as well. So any other kind of simulations?
Yeah, I just remember also, a couple on the Amiga of submarine simulators that are big fans of. Silent Service 2, I thought was great, and 688 Attack Sub. I think I preferred Silent Service 2 purely because of the World War II setting. I thought made it more interesting than 688 was Cold War, and I always played as the Russians. Yeah.
I watched your review of that recently. I think it was.
Right.
Just talking about the war. During the war, when you guys played the Theatre Europe on the C64?
Not for a long time, but I do remember playing it.
You should revisit it. It's still as scary, and it still stands up very well, I think. Did you guys play it back in the day?
Yeah. I didn't have it, but a friend of mine did have it. It was a strategy game, wasn't it? It wasn't like, I did like my strategy games. Well, I still do. I couldn't get into it. I don't know what it was about it. I just couldn't get into it as much as like some of the more, I'd say the more pure strategy. I back then I preferred playing like Archon and even just like chess and that. So actual war games, they didn't really grab me quite so much.
Was it Microprose? I think did all the war games, didn't they? I think.
I don't know if it was. I don't think it was Microprose who did Theatre Europe.
No, it was PS. Was it PSS?
Oh, I can't for
I
life
think it
remember.
was PSS. Rings a bell. What was that game? There was a game on the C64, Desert Fox, and it had some speech.
Yeah.
Stoker.
Rommel.
Rommel. It was actually really good.
Yeah, that was quite an early one, wasn't it? Desert Fox.
It was, Stoker. Yeah, superb. Anyway, that was Colin's question. Right, well, I thought I'd banned this guy, Panther UK. For the next waffle, you have had loads of guests on Talks Pish, Blame It's only in the 12-hour charity stream, but who's the one person still alive today that you would love to get on for a natter? Panther, over to you. If you were going to be interviewing somebody for your channel, who would you have on?
Lukozer, because I wouldn't fucking have you now, you cheeky bastard. Who would I have on? I would probably have Matt Gray on if I could have anyone from the industry on, because I've spoke to Matt before and I find him to be a very interesting man, with a lot to say on a lot of different subjects, not just music. So, yeah, I'd like to speak to Matt at length, or again.
What about yourself, Mr. L? If you were interviewing somebody from the scene, is there somebody you would like to talk to?
Well, I mean, I don't do those sort of vids, so can I just say no? No, there wouldn't be anyone.
There's no, yeah. I think for me, I mean, one guy I've tried to get on fucking numerous occasions, and I've spoke to Giles, and he's, oh yeah, I'll get him to do it. Fucking Jeff Minter. I don't know how many times he's fucking said he's going. I've even spoke to him face to face. I said, "You only come on." Yeah. And I'm too busy at the moment. I mean, Jeff is probably he's absolutely fantastic at doing these kind of things. He's so passionate about the hobby. I mean, if you've watched any of these, films and whatever it is, bedrooms to billions and that kind of stuff, he's so passionate about it. And I just think he's an interesting guy. The fact that he's still knocking out games. I mean, that game Moose Life, fucking absolutely superb, and he's selling it for like £5.50. That's a cardinal sin, you know what I mean? The fact that he's still passionate about doing it, he's putting out these games, he's never sold himself down the river, he still wants to retain, he wants to be an independent guy. So Jeff Minter, and I think Eugene Jarvis, I mean, fucking hell,
Well, I just actually thought of someone who I would actually, not so much interview, but just at least, have a chat with, is Fred Gray. Because there is absolutely no ego with the man at all. He's completely laid back, extremely modest. In fact, a lot of time he even like talks down, what he does. He always says, I could have done it better, sort of thing. And that's the kind of bloke I like, So that would be someone that I'd, if I was to do any of these sort of videos, I'd want someone like Fred Gray.
He's a bit like Sean Southern. Sean Southern is so... Yeah, it's like you fucking wrote the best arcade racing game on any home computer. And he's just like, when I was interviewing him, and I had to fucking remind him half the games he'd run. Did I like that? I can't remember. And he's just so blasé about it. He's so modest. What a nice guy. Yeah, great.
Well, obviously, if I was going to want to interview anyone that's not with us anymore, you both know I'd want to interview Ben. So
Ben the Gleesh,
talk to him. Yeah. Talk to Ben because I spoke to him on Facebook a few times, and he's just such a down to earth, energetic guy. I'd have loved to have just a long one-to-one chat, just talking about any old shit, not just computer stuff. Because I think that would have just been entertaining. Because the passion the man had for life, I think.
Absolutely. Just on that note, I'm just looking for a photo. Let's have a quick look. I can find it. Let's see if I can find it. Is it? I don't know what I'll let you. There was a picture. Let's see if I can share this. Share screen application.
By Jove, I think he's got it.
Can you see that? That was taken at Retrovision in 2005, and that was Jeff showing off his. That was the first time I met the guy. That was him showing off. Do you remember Unity, which he was programming for Lionsoft?
Yeah.
That was Jeff showing Unity. Look at the big fucking telly.
That's the first time I've ever seen him without a beard.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
At first, when you put that picture up, I was going to ask who it was. I was going to say, well, it looks like Jeff Minter, but where's his beard gone?
I remember standing at the bar. I mean, I remember being there, and he walked in, and I was just like, fucking, turned to jelly. There was this guy that I've known all these years, and here he is. And I was standing at the bar, and he came up, and he was getting served. And I started chatting to him about Unity, and he brought out, he had this man bag thing, and he brought out this little mini DVD player, and he started showing me this Unity, and he was kind of dancing as he was watching it, and I thought, fucking, this guy is just so passionate about what he does. Absolutely lovely guy. Absolutely love to interview him. Wait, there was one other picture I wanted to let you see. The fuck is it? It's not that. So you chaps talk amongst yourselves, so I'm just looking for it.
Every week I ask him a question, but every time I come on, I get abuse for it.
Do you think one day, if you ask a question about, do you think you could have a plan for a video, in advance? I think we already know the answer to that one.
Well, we'll let him off for the planning on the 12-hour live stream because he planned for that one. I just turned up.
Yeah. It was your turn to just not worry about the planning for that one. Yeah.
And then you'll recognise them more in this one. Share screen application. Now that's more like the Jeff that you know.
Yeah, that's more.
That's a Jeff that we all recognise.
This guy here, this guy is Mark Hennessy, called Bog. He works for Industrial Light and Magic. He does all the special effects in Los Angeles now. Have any of you guys seen that Whizball video? A sort of animation with a Whizball thing going down, and it's like...
Didn't you post that in one of the...
I did. It was him. It was Mark that... Mark that wrote that. Clever guy. Wait a minute. There's the picture I was wanting to let you see.
It's come to that, Chris. He's doing the equivalent of a holiday slideshow.
Yeah, I was going to say, when's he going to start with the holiday photos?
This is me on the pier. This is me on the waltzer. And here I am with an ice cream. That's Chris Abbott. John Hare and the back of someone, isn't it?
That's Mark, whatever, the Mad Fiddler they call him.
Mark Knight, is it, TDK?
Mark Knight, that's him. And that is Ben Douglas's arm. See the flute in the right hand side?
Oh, yes.
Oh, man, I have got a picture of it's a bit of a shit picture, but... Oh, there we go. Right, it's a shit picture. Bear in mind, this was 2005. And mobile phone cameras were absolutely shit. I mean, some of the videos I took with this were
because David Bailey's photos in the 70s were awful, weren't they?
Yeah.
Next excuse.
Yeah.
There you go. There's Ben. It's not a particularly good picture, but
it's good enough. He's
playing the Tom. Yeah. Anyway, right, where are we with questions? Right, that's enough of that one.
Thank you, Panther UK, for a very insightful question.
Yeah, right, thanks to him.
If the next question is asking to show your holiday snaps, just pretend it's not there.
We'll just look for Lukozer, it's a bad signal. Right, Paul Patrick is asking, are there any video game documentaries which you would recommend? Bedrooms to Billions, I thought was a bit uninspiring. What I didn't like about it, there was no talking. It's just, there was no questions. It's just people talking. That's the style that they kind of used. It was all right. It was the best of a bad, not best of a bad bunch. It's interesting to hear the history of the industry, but I wasn't particularly keen on the sort of the style that they've used. Have you guys seen Bedrooms to Billions?
I think it's all right. Yeah. I do quite like that one.
They particularly touched well on the Sid chip and that, so that was good for me.
Never really watch. I mean, there's a few of them. King of Kong. There's King of Kong. There's High Score, which I think was the guy going for Pac-Man. There's Chasing Ghosts, another Pac-Man one. I'll tell you one interesting one. I can't remember what the fuck it's called. It's the World Championships at Tetris. Fucking hell, these guys are...
You're not selling that one too good.
It could be worse. It could be the World Championship of Columns.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a few. I mean, there's a few good ones. One of the ones you have to see is Commercial Breaks, which was a BBC. It was an episode of the BBC Commercial Breaks thing, and it was like charting the rise of the industry with Ocean Software and Imagine Software, but unbeknownst to the film crew, the bailiffs came in and fucking took
I was
it.
going to say, yeah, is that the one where they're locked out of the offices and that? Yeah.
There is one by Wave M Studios called the Chiptune Story. That's fairly good. One
Chiptune
basically
Story.
the Chiptune Story. Yeah. It was up free for a while because of lockdown. I'll have a look and see if it's still about somewhere, and I'll put a link up for you. That's really, really good. Obviously, you've got Ben's in that, Rob Hubbard. There's loads of them in it, and it does deal more with the C64. I can't think of the bloke. It's a Scottish fella who's presenting it.
I think I might have seen it. I think you might have given me a link to that in Facebook while it was on during the lockdown thing. It does sound very familiar.
Yeah, that's.
No, I try and find it and stick a link, Chris, if you can find it.
Yeah, I will do, mate.
Good. The oldie gamer Steve, great waffle, mate. Question for you, if I'm not too late. I just dropped £310. That's a lot of weight to drop. All right, £310 on a used Spectrum Next on eBay because I don't want to wait a year. On a scale of 0 to 100, just how batshit crazy am I? And can I move in with you for a month because I've not told the wife yet?
He asked me that earlier on as well.
No, I wouldn't say you're batshit crazy. I mean, people think, people that I've seen kind of real life, they think, how much did you spend on that? Or £300? Fucking hell, you must have more money in cents. I says, well, man, how much did you own? Did you get a Spectrum for your Christmas in 1983? Yeah. He says, well, that's fucking about 400. A PlayStation 5 is going to cost less money than a Spectrum cost back in 1983. So I don't think it's batshit crazy at all. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you spend, if you're going to spend a chunk of money on something that you're going to use, then what's the problem? I've got a mate who plays golf. You'll fucking pay £500 on a bloody golf club.
Well, yeah,
That is fucking crazy.
Yeah, there you go.
I was saying in the Discord about the fact that I'd wedged out nearly £300 on a new computer for my arcade machine. And it's like Ponder, Colin Jones said in there, he said, if it's something that you want, that you're going to use, and you're going to have fun with, then it's not a waste of money. As long as you've got the money to spend, then it's not a waste. And he's right. If it's nice to leave stuff to your kids, but your coffin's got no pockets, you can't take it with you. Why not enjoy it while you're here?
Yeah. Well,
He didn't say that, I said that, but...
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, no, you are in, Stephen. You enjoy your next. John Rand, good waffle. I recently caught your Sunday stream and enjoyed it. If you're taking suggestions for future themes, I suggest either Parker Brothers or Datasoft.
Oh, some old ones from the Parker Brothers.
Yeah, they're old ones. Parker Brothers, other than Gyrus, did they do Gyrus in the C64?
Well, they might have done, but I'm pretty sure if you're going to do the Parker Brothers, then you're going to get a lot of early 64 stuff, Atari 8-bit, and probably some VCS, Atari 2600.
Probably. Interesting.
Yeah, didn't they do most of the Star Wars games on the?
I think they did. Aye, they certainly did. Aye. Empire Strikes Back and that, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, and the dead good Jedi Arena, yeah, that was a great one.
Right, Milty Swinbuckle.
Was it?
You think he had his sincere face. Milty Swinbuckle question for next waffle. Last time I asked you which 8-bit computer games do you rate a perfect 10 out of 10? The absolute best and unrivaled by anything else. This week's it's the same question but dealing with 16 32-bit computers. So which 16 30-bit games do you rate the perfect 10? Bloody hell, right? I can't think of any, so I'm going to put Mr. L on the spot. What's the perfect Is there a perfect game on the Amiga?
16-bit. Dungeon Master. Lemmings. I know I rated both of those 10 out of 10 when I reviewed them. You've got to say Jeff Craven's Formula One Grand Prix.
Stunt car racer, probably I can throw that in the mix.
Which one?
Stunt car racer.
Yeah, quite possibly.
You rated Speedball 2 Brutal Deluxe 10 out of 10 as well. I watched the review yesterday.
Actually, I can. Yeah, I would still stand by that. I think that's fantastic. Which is weird because I didn't like the first Speedball, but Speedball 2 was superb. So there's a few. I know it's not going to be our type of game at all, but I really do rate Sim Life. But yeah, very, very different type of game. You know, that's not going to be for everyone. Indianapolis 500.
What was that one?
Indy 500.
Oh, yeah, I'll need to play that one. That's on the Amiga, yeah. I think we could probably throw Turbo Challenge 2 and Sensible Soccer in as well. Two stupendous games.
Here we go, controversial time. I didn't rate Sensible Soccer.
And I didn't
I much preferred. I much preferred Kickoff 2 to Sensible Soccer.
Well, your pal Mr. Perry, his favourite football game of all time is Kickoff 2 in the Amiga.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I did enjoy it, but I found it quite difficult. But yeah, totally different game from Sensible Soccer. Any other ones for yourself, Panther? Perfect 10.
Can't really add much to that. My first port of call would have been Dungeon Master, because that was the game that sold 1 million STs, and then I had it on the Amiga afterwards. I quite enjoyed the first Eye of the Beholder game as well on the Amiga, but that really used a lot of the tricks and sort of like
it built on what Dungeon Master had already established. So
yeah. Lemmings is a perfect puzzle game. Lotus Prix Turbo Challenge 2 is probably the Amiga's perfect driving game. Simulation, we've already had them. I would imagine probably Formula One Grand Prix if I had to push the one that I played the most. And
what about Frontier Elite 2?
That's not a perfect game. It's a good game, but it's not a perfect game. It gets better if you play it on a A1200.
You've got to play it on a 1200, yeah.
You've got to play it, but there's a lot of not much to do in that game. That's the only trouble with that one.
Yeah, when I reviewed it, I gave it 9.5. I was very, very close to giving it 10.
Yeah, I'm one of the few people that does actually like it. I mean,
I prefer it to the original Elite.
For some reason, although he didn't put it in there, when I was recording the clips, you know, the intro to my videos have got all the clips of games. I purposely recorded using an 030 setup. Purposely recorded the ship in the intro flying through the big round space station.
Yeah.
My boy didn't put that in the intro. He goes, I didn't think that fit with what I was trying to do. I was like, for fuck's sake. But it's very nearly a perfect game. But you have to be patient and be willing, like you do in Elite Dangerous, to suffer a lot of real time flying.
Yes.
I mean, like you can jump within sort of like seconds, but then if you land the other side of the bloody star system to the planet you want to go to, then you've got 45 minutes of real time flight, and if you don't get pulled out of witch space to fight by someone, it's 45 minutes of just looking at stars.
I'd probably shoot 'em up wise, I'd probably throw Hybris in there as well. It's a fantastic game.
Great game. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say a 10 out of 10 one, but yeah, it is fantastic.
It's definitely a 10 out of 10 for being like Terra Cresta, I'll give it that.
I prefer Hybris to Terra Cresta, but purely because of the music.
Brilliant fun. Yeah, good question, Milfy. Oh, there's part 2. As an Amiga user, mine are all from this one machine. I find that I rate more of these games a perfect 10 than I did with the C64. I only rated 3 on the C64 perfect, although 2 of the games I rate here on the Amiga are crossovers, these being Elite and International Karate Plus. The other games I'd rate 10 out of 10 are Sensible Worldly Soccer, Stunt Car Racer, Deluxe Galaga.
It's not
That was a
bad.
public domain game, wasn't it?
It's a bloody good public domain game as well.
Worms. I never really played it. I tried to play it on Sunday completely.
I do like words, but
You've got to
it's
know
not a 10
what
out of
you're
10.
doing.
Lemons. Lemons? Anybody heard of Lemons?
Lemons.
It's got the original in brackets, Lemons.
Do you mean lemmings? By
I was going to say, does he mean lemmings?
I think he means lemmings. Lemons, I've never heard of that one. Lemons. Slam Tilt Pinball. Never heard of that one either.
There were some okay pinball games on the Amiga, but none of them were brilliant.
Alien Breed 3D2. How does that run? Does that not need an accelerated Amiga?
If you've got a nice kick-ass 060 A4000, it's as good as a PC, like early Doom or Quake game, but you do need some oomph to make that run on an Amiga, because it hasn't got the 3D architecture in the hardware.
Yeah, and the last one, Jimmy White's Whirlwind Snooker. Yeah, which to be fair it was
Fantastic snooker game, by far the best snooker game I've played. I still wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10 though.
Yeah, good game. And I think that is it. Fucking hell! I said, can I trouble you chaps for 30 minutes? We're just at 1 hour and 45. So.
And I seem to remember, if I have a look on the chat I had with you earlier on. Probably on the chat we all had together then. I definitely said something along the lines like, yeah, that's going to happen. Much the same as whenever we do a video, and then he blames us, and it's his bloody channel.
Yeah.
But anyway, chaps, listen, thank you very, very much for joining me for an impromptu Friday Waffle. I've got to now download this and get it fucking edited before I go to my bed tonight, so thanks for taking part.
Life tougher, you know.
I know. And lastly, guys, have a fantastic weekend. What's that? Have a fantastic weekend, and as always, thank you very, very much for watching.